it sure is. Supercars on a Sunday, all thanks to Barbecues Galore. Barbecues Galore, end of financial year clearance. It's on now, so visit in-store or online today. Incredible day yesterday. Mark Winterbottom with that win, as mentioned, the first time since 2016. But there was all sorts of drama on the track with Cam Waters, his Mustang on fire. Incredible pictures coming out of there. Our team of Aaron Noonan and James Moffat will be all across that as we look forward to race 14 and race 15 today. A great celebration for Mark Winterbottom for race 13. But from what I understand, Aaron, there'll be celebrations within the commentary booth today as well.
Nice segue, Jimmy. Hello to you. James Moffat, my co-commentator here on SEN Supercars, is with me for another two big races today. But more importantly, SEN listeners, it's James Moffat's birthday. Happy 39th, James. You get to spend it with me. I'm not sure what second prize is.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, Noons and Jimmy. So, but yeah, looking forward to these two races this afternoon. As we discussed, a lot to unpack from yesterday's race, race number 13 of the championship, and Mark Winterbottom breaking that winless streak of back to 2016. So a fantastic win for him, not only himself, but Team 18's first win in the championship. So a great day for them.
It really was. Charlie Schwerkolt, formerly a partner with Dick Johnson in the Jim Beam racing team, established his own team about 10 years ago, spent a lot of money, he's been through a lot of heartbreak and a lot of tough days at racetracks, but yesterday he got his day of reward. For Mark Winterbottom, it broke it. You said it was a drought. 2,414 days since his last win, which was in New Zealand back in November 2016. 333 races for Team 18 to get that first win on the board, and 194 since Winterbottom had last won. So a whole pile of stuff happened yesterday. As Jimmy mentioned at the top of the show, Cam Waters on fire, quite literally. On fire in terms of speed before that, but the car had a fuel fitting in under the engine bay to the engine that worked its way loose. Of course, fuel inside the engine bay, up it went. But an amazing job. Tickford Racing, that Melbourne-based Mustang team, have repaired that car. They were there till 3:30 a.m. local time this morning. They've got it back on the track. He does start back row of the grid for this race, which we've got starting in not too long away from now. But just to have that car back on track is stunning.
Oh, absolutely. You can't speak highly enough of the boys and girls down at Tickford Racing to turn that car around overnight, get it repaired and back in pristine condition, it must be said. If people didn't see yesterday's race and see that car on fire, you wouldn't understand that it was on fire yesterday. So a magnificent effort from everybody down at the Tickford Racing crew. And, it was obviously bitterly disappointing for those guys. Cam Waters, a fantastic pole position and leading the race early on before that huge fireball explosion, really, on the Monster Mustang. So scary scenes, but thankfully Cam himself was okay and the car was clearly able to be repaired overnight, and he'll line up for today's races.
And the storyline of yesterday, additionally, of course, the fire for Cam Waters took all the headlines. Mark Winterbottom grabbed plenty. Will Davison on the podium too. So the 40-somethings delivered yesterday in Darwin with both he and Mark Winterbottom. First time in nearly 20 years we've had two drivers in their 40s on the podium of a single driver round, which is quite amazing. Just shows the whole way that the championship's evolved and the younger drivers have been stepping it up. But for this next race, which starts very soon from Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin, Brock Feeney has pole position. And this is going to be a scenario where after yesterday's race, he came home second. He has now leapfrogged Shane van Gisbergen in the points. It's the first time Shane's been further back in the points for quite some time than his teammate, of course, the three-time champ, two-time in the last 2 years. But this is a case where Feeney's sort of in uncharted territory here, and I think he's delivered probably more than we've expected this year. And Van Gisbergen has gone the other way. He just doesn't look to be the same dominant threat that we've seen in the last few years. There's been a few things go on with Van Gisbergen's car, particularly Friday during practice, where he virtually did no running because they'd trialled for Supercars a pit lane speed limiter, like the pit lane speed limiter, but to limit the car in the case of when there's been accidents and they can bring the field. They want to try to work on improving that. So they had problems with that, and he lost lots of time in Friday practice. He just doesn't look like the dominant beast that he's been for the last two seasons.
And the practice sessions are so tight in terms of their time, and these teams value those practice sessions so much. And if you lose any amount of track time, it really puts you on the back foot for the rest of the weekend. And to that point, today's race, qualifying number, race 14, the closest spread of any Darwin race in the history since coming to this venue since 1998. From pole position to 24th on the grid, which is Chaz Mostert, 0.4406 of a second separates pole to 24th. So any missed track time you have, whether it's in practice or any racing, really puts you on the back foot. But Brock Feeney, he really has been certainly the man in form for Red Bull and pole Triple Eight Race Engineering, and a pole position here for race number 14.
And, of course, Darwin, it's all about the temperature of both the cars, the drivers, the teams as well. With thanks to Kubota Cars, let's have a look at the weather today. 31 degrees in Darwin. This time of year, dry season, perfect in terms of the temps. If you're a driver, a little bit toastier.
Yeah.
You've experienced this plenty of times. Cabin temps are up around the 50-degree mark, 45% humidity today. Of course, Kubota Cars together shaping and building New Zealand. And, of course, for Kiwis, plenty of Kiwi interest in this championship. Van Gisbergen, the banner-head Kiwi driver, but he's not the best Kiwi on the grid today because Andre Heimgartner for Brad Jones Racing has qualified second for not just this race, but the one later on this afternoon. There was 2 qualifying sessions this morning.
Yeah, really nice turnaround from Andre Heimgartner and the BJR crew. We have seen him being strong at various stages throughout the year, and to line up on the front row, the outside of the front row for both races for today's races is certainly a good starting spot for Heimgartner and the R&J Batteries crew.
So let's have a look at the way that they'll line up for this one. It's race 14, so it's going to be 35 laps. It's 100 kilometres. It's a sprint race. It's short, sharp and fast, but there will be a compulsory pit stop where the cars will peel off to our Repco authorised service pit lane. Of course, you can rely on your local Repco authorised service centre. Brock Feeney, Andre Heimgartner. That's the front row of the grid. Row 2, Shane Van Gisbergen and championship leader Brody Kostecki, who really pulled a result out yesterday after qualifying a bit further back. Will Brown, his teammate, he pulled a result out after starting further back on the grid yesterday. He starts 5th. James Golding next. So, Moff, it's 6 Camaros in the top 6 positions. They lock out the front 3 rows of the grid. The cars are now leaving the grid for the warm-up lap to get ready to get things rolling. Nick Percat, best qualifying of the season for Walkinshaw Andretti United. He's the best forward. He'll start from 7th. Podium man yesterday, Will Davison, starts from 8th. 9th, Bryce Fullwood, the Darwin driver, who had a solid run yesterday. In fact, his best ever result at his home round. And Todd Hazelwood, his best ever qualifying in Darwin, the Cool Drive Mustang, is going to start from P10. Behind them, Matthew Payne, young Kiwi, doing a nice job. He's outpointed David Reynolds, which is a fair effort in the Penrite Mustangs. McCordy Jones, 12th from Scott Pye. Declan Fraser in 14th. The reigning Super 2 champ is the best Tickford car of their 4 cars. That's a bit of a turn-up for the books.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised, clearly in this race 14 qualifying, none of those Tickford cars particularly qualified well. So perhaps a little bit of a distraction overnight in having to get Cam Waters' car repaired and fixed for today's race that, they just missed a setup. The Tickford group qualified a bit better for race 15 later on today.
Running through the rest of the grid, Jack LeBrock, 15th. He starts from pole. Later on this afternoon, Tim Slade from 16, Cam Hill 17th, then Thomas Randall, Jack Smith, Zane Goddard 20th. Wildcard entry this weekend, the 3rd Triple Eight car, the Super Cheap Auto Camaro. He'll drive that car with Craig Lowndes at Sandown and Bathurst, so he's getting his eye back in. First Supercars race for him since Bathurst last year. And then down the back, some of the biggest names in the sport. Some of them have had their worst Darwin qualifying of their careers. Anton De Pasquale, 21st. David Reynolds, 22nd. Mark Winterbottom, yesterday's winner. Talk about coming back to earth. He's 23rd. Chaz Mostert's having a miserable weekend. 24th. Cam Waters, 25th. James Courtney, the 2010 champ, is 26th. In fact, he starts last for both races today. It is a real mix-up, and that's what all the drivers are saying. These new Gen 3 cars, they're so hard to find the setup window. It's kind of like trying to land a FA-14 jet on an aircraft hangar in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They've just made they've made the aircraft carrier smaller. Yeah. It's even harder to land the setup to get these cars right. And that's what we're seeing in the results sheet. Brock Feeney is pulling up now onto pole position. We've got 35 laps ahead, 100 kilometres of racing around the Hidden Valley Circuit. It's the 25th anniversary celebration weekend. It's Supercars on SEN with thanks to CJD. Keep your business moving with CJD Isuzu as the cars roll on up now. 20 6 cars this weekend, 25 regular season competitors, I should say, and 1 wild card. Last couple of cars down the back. Cam Waters, James Courtney, lining it up. Green flag at the back. We're good to go. Race 14 of the Repco Supercars Championship on SEN. Feeney and Heimgartner on the front row. Van Gisbergen and Kostecki, the championship leader. They're off and rolling on the run to turn 1 at Hidden Valley, and it's very, very even. They're line astern on the run. 440 metres from the start line to turn 1. Feeney's got the inside line. Heimgartner's going to argue it for a moment. He'll have to slot it back in there because he's got to cover off James. Van Gisbergen, mid-pack is wild. There's bumping and boring going on everywhere. Cars out wide, through the dirt, through the grass. We're off and rolling. Feeney leads the way.
That was a very clean car start by all the competitors, and nice and cleanly through turn 5. But it's Brock Feeney who's got about a 5-car length gap back to Heimgartner as they negotiate turn 6 for the first time. But yeah, it was Heimgartner and Feeney with a very even start off the front row. Van Gisbergen slots into third.
It's all the Camaros at the front. Brown, Golding, Kostecki, one around. Matthew Payne, the young Kiwi, the Penrite Mustang. He's come together with Declan Fraser. There's another car off the road. It's one of the Truck Assist Camaros. Hard to spot who that might have been. It's Jack LeBrock, in fact. So they've got together on the exit of the run through the valley.
And damage to Declan Fraser in the tradie Mustang on the right front. So he'll be coming into pit lane, but it's Feeney with a handy margin after the first lap as they head into turn 1. Van Gisbergen starting to put a bit of pressure on the back of Heimgartner.
So tough run for Tickford Racing. Declan Fraser, the tradie Mustang, is in the lane. The right front tyre is down on that car after that contact in the early laps. So good news, though, for Brock Feeney. He has clear air on the run through the valley. It's a 14-turn circuit, this Hidden Valley circuit. But this big hairpin, this is where it's causing a few issues because Van Gisbergen's starting to apply the pressure to the back of Andre Heimgartner. It's Feeney, Heimgartner, Van Gisbergen, Brown, Golding, Kostecki, Percat, Davison, Fullwood, Hazelwood. Not too much change in the order at the front. Declan Fraser's now back in pit lane. Matthew Payne is as well. So some of the young guns of Supercars racing have come undone. And the problem is here, there is a compulsory pit stop in this race, but the compulsory pit stop window does not start until the beginning of lap 5. The leaders are just finishing lap 2. So for these cars that have had problems on the first lap, they have to come back in later on. Yeah,
it looks like further issues for Declan Fraser there. He looks like he's going back into the garage, so maybe some more serious damage rather than just a punctured right front tyre. But it's Van Gisbergen who looks very racy in the early phases. He's actually poked the nose up the inside of Heimgartner coming out of turn 1, but he is all over the back of Heimgartner, who goes defensive into turn 4, 5 and runs it a little bit wide. So Van Gisbergen now, he's on the wrong side of the road though for the hairpin, and he's got to be aware of Brody Kostecki behind him.
They're lined up ready to have a crack. Will Brown is the one attacking Van Gisbergen, but he's getting attacked by James Golding. They're all losers because the winner here is Brock Feeney. While they're fighting with one another, the young gun is driving away out front. He's built the margin. It's 1.2 seconds. We're on lap 3 of this first race of the day. SEN Supercars. With thanks to Barbecues Galore, don't forget the end of financial year clearance is on now. Visit in-store or online today. It is warm in the top end. It's a bit of a barbecue too in the pack. From 2nd back to 15th, they are nose to tail on the run down this 1.1 kilometre front straight Hidden Valley. Feeney leading the way. 3 laps down. Heimgartner coming under pressure from Van Gisbergen, who's got Will Brown right with him, who's got James Golding right with him, who has the championship leader, Brody Kostecki, right behind. This is a weekend where Erebus have not had that overall car pace that they've had at the first 4 rounds. But they're just doing what they need to do. A 4th, a 5th, a 6th, whatever they can grab, big fistful of points, big picture stuff. They're playing it right.
Yeah, that's a great point, Noons. Certainly Brody Kostecki, he recovered, and Will Brown to that fact. They both recovered very well from qualifying positions that we haven't become accustomed to seeing them this year in yesterday's race. And now it's Brown who's actually starting to pester the back of Van Gisbergen. And what the drivers will be wanting to do is when they feel like they're faster, as Brown tries to poke it up the inside of Van Gisbergen at the last corner, they want to get past the car in front as soon as they can, because following closely to that car in front, it just heats particularly the brakes and the front tyres up too much. And we heard Brock Feeney yesterday complain a lot when he was behind Mark Winterbottom. It just overheated everything in his car and he couldn't progress forward. So there's a lot to consider for these drivers. So we see Van Gisbergen, he's just dropped back a little bit from Heimgartner. He was all over the back of him in the first couple of laps. So I think he might just be cooling down his temperatures and getting ready to have another attack at Heimgartner.
Been able to clear away out in front. Feeney's cleared away. Heimgartner's now got margin, and they are banked up behind Van Gisbergen in the fight for third place. And they're really banking up. Percat is the first of the Fords, the number 2 Walkinshaw Andretti United car, then Will Davison, then Bryce Forward, then Todd Hazelwood just behind, Macaulay Jones, Scott Pye, Tim Slade. It really is a Congo line of cars as they snake their way around this 14-turn, 2.87 kilometre circuit at Hidden Valley. Right now, though, the man who's under huge pressure is Shane Van Gisbergen. The guy who's giving it is Will Brown. They're on the run down the pit straight at Hidden Valley. This long run, they'll get to top gear. 5 laps down, 30 to go. Feeney has control. 1 second now the margin. Back to Andre Heimgartner. But it's Van Gisbergen who initially, James, looked solid, but he's dropped right back off Andre Heimgartner. And Will Brown, who Shane was frustrated with him yesterday because Shane was covering off the hairpin and Will was into the back of him because, of course, he was slowing him down, deliberately trying to hold him back. And this is a chance for Brown to be able to get back. We're seeing a replay on our screen of what happened on that first lap with Matt Payne, Declan Fraser, steering arm damage to the tradie Mustang of young Declan Fraser. And it was LeBrock who was kind of behind that incident, and he got hit by Jack Smith, who was trying to avoid what was going on there. So drama in the mid-pack on that first lap and problems for some of the young guns of Supercars, whereas it's another young gun right now, Feeney, who leads the way. Smith and Fraser are still in pit lane in this 14th race of the championship.
So it is Van Gisbergen still having to... he's not completely defending from Will Brown, but he has dropped back considerably from Andre Heimgartner. So we saw him being all over the back of Heimgartner early on in the race. So I just wonder if Van Gisbergen might have abused his tyres a little bit and is just struggling a little bit in this phase of the race. So it's certainly Brown that is applying the blowtorch to the back of the number 97.
Fastest lap of the race so far is not by the leader. It's not by second, not by third. In fact, you've got to go to 24th. Matt Payne rejoined on the track and has set the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 8.02. Remember that there's 5 bonus points on the line in Supercars in the sprint races for the driver that sets the fastest lap, but not if you finish back in the pack. You've got to be up there in the top 15 to be able to grab that point. Pressure still on Heimgartner, but more so Van Gisbergen. Feeney controlling this race. We are now into the stage of the race, James, ending lap 7. We're well into the pit stop window. Yesterday, everyone took it because it came when Cam Waters' car caught on fire. It was the time that they had to take it. Now they can play the game a little differently in this one. They're starting lap 8. Feeney leads the way, 1.3 seconds back to Heimgartner. A much more stable opening stanza of this race compared to yesterday when it was absolute chaos.
That's right. And the biggest mover of the race so far, David Reynolds in his Penrite Mustang, up 6 spots, currently sits in position 16. He was able to avoid a bit of that havoc that we saw at turn 7 on lap 1. And conversely, it's his teammate who's the biggest loser in the race, down 13 spots from his starting position, Matt Payne, who, of course, had to come to pit lane to replace a punctured tyre. So now this battle resumes between Van Gisbergen, Brown and James Golding in the Premier Racing Camaro. He sits in position 5. He's in a Coca-Cola Camaro sandwich with Brodie Kostecki closely following behind.
So it's a much more settled, much more organised, much more calm and controlled race that we've got so far today in Darwin on SEN. 8 laps down, 27 left to go. Starting to hear some of the drivers talking about their rear tyres starting to go away. And that's the case with these newer generation cars, James. Scott Pye is now in pit lane. It's hard to look after these tyres. It's hard to deliver the power. They're very different to the old generation of car. it's really setting the great drivers apart from the not-so-great drivers.
And especially in these hot Darwin temperatures, that ability to look after your tyres is even more crucial. So, it's Kostecki with a big move up the inside on Golding at the hairpin. A little bit of contact between the two of them, but that was a huge lunge from the championship leader. Golding manages to keep the position, but only just. So, Kostecki, and he has another look up the inside at turn 10. That's a very difficult spot to get that pass done. So he is really attacking the back of Golding in the number 31.
It's a fine line here, James, between making a decisive manoeuvre or putting yourself in a position that you don't need to be in. Will Brown's pitting. He's going to pit. Second in the championship is on his way in. So the first of the leaders and the leading pack in pit lane as Kostecki keeps the pressure on James Golding. They're down at turn 1. We're on lap 10 at Hidden Valley in race 14.
That really was a great exchange over a few corners by those two. A nice clean pit stop from Will Brown in the number 9 Coca-Cola Camaro. He's taken 2 rear tyres. So quite an early pit stop though, lap 10. So he's got 25 laps to make those Dunlop super soft tyres live to the end of the race.
Unbelievably warm temps, but we know that that's what you get with Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin this time of year. Perfect time of year. Sun is out, blue skies, 28 degrees at the moment. Expected top of 31. On the track though, hot action, and Brodie Kostecki, the championship leader, is keeping the pressure on James Golding. They're fighting for 4th and 5th. He looks like he's got a little bit more pace. Down turn 14, the final left-hander. He shoved it down the inside. A little bit of a bump on the exit. He'll be slower out of that corner, and that means Golding's got to run, but there's side draft here. Kostecki's up the inside. Top gear, top speed, top position. He's through. Down the inside into turn 1. He'll get it done. And pit lane's pretty busy now. More cars in. Jack LeBrock, Zane Goddard, David Reynolds. But right here, the fight for 4th is where we're looking. Brodie Kostecki is through, and now Golding has to deal with Nick Percat.
That was a nice move by Brodie Kostecki, our championship leader. Very aggressive there on James Golding at the last corner. And he's certainly already eked out a bit of a margin on Golding on this lap already. So he's showing that he's up for the fight today, our championship leader, and now what he wants to do is obviously extend that margin back to Golding. Nick Percat sitting nicely in 6th. This is the best showing we've seen from Nick in the Walkinshaw Andretti United Mustang all season. So much more encouraging turn of speed for Percat. And Will Davidson, who's coming fresh off a podium finish in race number 13, he sits in P7.
So Brock Feeney is still controlling this race, 11 laps down. The leaders are staying out there at the moment. So Will Brown is going for what we call the undercut. Pit early, get out on fresh tyres, hopefully lap faster than the cars that were in front of you. When they make their stop, you pop out in front. That's what they're doing here. But it also means for the Coke team, for Erebus, they're putting their cars into separate parts of when they're going to stop, so they're not suddenly finding themselves with a safety car and both needing to pit, because in Supercars, there's just one pit boom. So every team can pit one car. The other car has to wait. They don't have 2 separate pit crews. It's always a juggling act to make sure when you've got 2 cars running close on the track together from the one team that you don't trip over yourself or get found wanting should something happen later.
Exactly, and the split strategy, it's a smart move, I think, by the guys and girls down at Erebus Motorsport, because, if a safety car was to come out right now, Shane Van Gisbergen, he'd be forced to pit and stack behind his teammate, who's in the race lead, Brock Feeney, who would have right of way in pit lane. But there's plenty of action going on further down the field. Forward pokes the nose up the inside of Will Davidson at the last corner. Can't quite get the car far enough up the inside to pull off a clean passing manoeuvre, but he will tuck in behind the Shell V-Power Mustang down this long straightaway here at Hidden Valley Raceway. Have a look up the inside under brakes into turn 1. Can't quite get a move done this time by. Just catching a replay of Kostecki and Golding, and it was ultra aggressive from Kostecki on his first attempt to get past Golding at the hairpin a few laps ago, and then he slid it up the inside at the last corner. A little bit of rubbing between the two, but all in all, very fair driving between Kostecki and Golding, and it was Kostecki who came out with the upper hand in that battle. So still a lot to unfold in this 35-lap race, not even close to being at half race distance. So we just wait to see a bit of action here in pit lane. A very tight release from the Penrite Racing crew, with David Reynolds actually surrendering a spot to Zane Goddard, the wildcard entry for this weekend in pit lane.
Brock Feeney, he's not surrendering, but Andre Heimgartner, James, is going to work. Margins 9/10, 13 laps down, 22 to go here at Hidden Valley Raceway. It's the Darwin Triple Crown. It's one of the hardest awards to win. Win all 3 races, you get the Triple Crown. Mark Winterbottom, yesterday's winner, is 14th. He's going to need a miracle to be a Triple Crown winner. He might be a 2 of 3 crown winner if he's able to perform later on when he starts from 3rd in the final race this afternoon. It's Supercars on SEN with thanks to CJD. Keep your business moving with CJD Isuzu. We are on lap 14. We're going to take a break from the action at Hidden Valley. Plenty more to come. Brock Feeney's in control. Heimgartner, Van Gisbergen and Kostecki are leading the chasing pack. And back with the action at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin. Brock Feeney continues to lead the way. We are right bang on half race distance. 18 laps down, 18 to go. Well, halfway through, I should say. Lap 19 now. It's a 35-lap race, 100 kilometres. And now it's a critical point, James Moffat, because Andre Heimgartner, the Kiwi, for Brad Jones Racing, is pitting from 2nd in the race, 1 second behind Brock Feeney on the road. He's in as well as championship leader Brodie Kostecki from 4th. So Brad Jones Racing are the best pit crew in the lane. They win the pit stop competition every year for the last couple of years. That's a good stop, 4.1 seconds. He's on his way back out. Brodie Kostecki, rear tyre's done there. It's a 2-tyre compulsory stop. I don't think we're going to see anybody try 3 or 4. It's all about a quick change of the rears. Heimgartner, he's at pit exit. Kostecki's at the exit. We're watching for where they come out to Will Brown. Remember, he pitted back on lap 9. We're now on lap 19, and it means Brown has got his way in front of his teammate Brodie Kostecki, who rejoins behind.
That was a great pit stop by the BJR crew. Also, Kostecki's Erebus Motorsport crew serviced him in nice order as well. Both cars taking 2 rear tyres, but I think it was the speed of Shane Van Gisbergen that might have forced the hand of Andre Heimgartner and the BJR crew to make that pit stop, because he was coming at the back of that R&J Batteries Camaro at a rapid rate as Feeney, our race leader, is in pit lane.
Okay, so Feeney's on his way in now. Of course, our pit lane partner, Repco Authorised Service. You can rely on them, Repco Authorised Service Centre. Right now, it's all about relying on the pit crew, because the Red Bull Ampol team are ready and waiting. Rear tyre change. Key here is, can they cover off Heimgartner? Got delay. Left rear was a little bit slow. That's probably cost half a second. He's at the pit exit. He's on his way out. He's going to come back up to speed here. But Heimgartner is at speed, James, on the track. Feeney, though, rejoins in front. Cold rear tyres. He'll take a couple of corners to get them up and rolling. But Heimgartner's pretty much where he was before the pit stops began. The key element here is Will Brown is now behind Heimgartner. But you pay the invoice later on. He pitted, 9 laps earlier. So those tyres have to go 9 laps further than the guys he's fighting with right now. But he's put himself in with a chance of a podium today, Will Brown.
He's certainly got to make those tyres last a long way compared to his rivals around him, but pretty much status quo after the pit stops. If anything, Heimgartner might have just made a bit of margin on Feeney due to the fact that he pitted that lap earlier than Feeney. But, it's all on and all to play for the rest of this race. Van Gisbergen, the main contender, still yet to pit. So what do they do in the number 97 side of the garage down at Red Bull Ampol Racing? Do they extend this stint and give him super fresh tyres for the back end of the race? Or do they pit him in the next few laps?
Historically, they've got a rhythm with car 97. Run him along and then watch him just mow them down with fresh tyres in that last quarter of a race, last third of a race, whatever it might be. But I don't reckon he's got the car speed to be able to play with that today. So I reckon you see him in the pit lane, our Repco Authorised Service pit lane, pretty soon. I don't reckon you want to go too far or too long here.
No, you've got to give you now.
Because then you've got to pass cars.
Yeah, you've got to give yourself enough time to pass those cars. So there's no point having a huge offset in tyre performance if you've only got 4 or 5 laps to pass, 4 or 5 cars, for example. So there's certainly a lot of number crunching going on in the pits to work out the best scenario. But it's Heimgartner now. He's ranged up onto the back of Feeney, putting a lot of pressure on. So since the pit stop, definitely a change in performance for Heimgartner. He looks stronger at this phase of the race.
I've got a feeling here this might be a potential Bendix big moment, because Heimgartner is all over the back of Brock Feeney. They're on the run to the main pit straight, past the pits to the right, and he's tucked in behind the rear wing. 21 laps down, 14 to go. Heimgartner's trying to get there, and he's going to have a look down the inside. Feeney covers turn 1, and Andre has to go back to the outside and start all over again. I thought the Bendix big moment was coming right there and then. Of course, thanks to Bendix, put your foot down with confidence for Bendix brakes. Tell you what, right now, Heimgartner has confidence. He has speed. Van Gisbergen's the leader. Fullwood and Waters are yet to take their compulsory pit stop in their tour through our Repco authorised service pit lane. Then back on the road, next behind them is Feeney. So Feeney's 34.6 behind the leader Van Gisbergen, who's staying on the road at the moment, has not pitted. The transit time in the lane at 40 kilometres per hour from in to out is 29.5. Add the pit stop time to change the tyres, it's going to be pretty close.
It will be, and these guys, as they continue to battle, that's only going to help Shane Van Gisbergen, because Brock Feeney, Heimgartner is all over the back of him. And the previous lap, it was Feeney who felt the need to defend into turn 1. That's how close Heimgartner was to him. So this race will be fascinating to the end, focusing further down the field on a nice little battle pack between Tim Slade, Todd Hazelwood, and I believe it is.
You got confused there, didn't you? Because Slade's in front of his old car. That's the different element. I could tell exactly what was going on in your brain right there and then. There's plenty of rumbling going on out there at the moment. James Golding's 8th. Hey, good performance too. Macaulay Jones has had a solid weekend. He sits in 9th place at the moment. David Reynolds is 11th, but he's going to cop a 5-second time penalty for a pit lane merge breach. We saw some vision earlier on of he having to yield back behind Zane Goddard. Can only think that maybe there wasn't contact, but you can only run a certain number of pit lane garages, not in the fast lane. I can only imagine that might have been the scenario.
Yeah, like you said, we saw the vision of that, and it looked all fine. So
I think that's what it would be.
Yeah. So a bit of pain there for Reynolds to take at the end of the race, unfortunately for him and his Penrite Racing crew. But it is Hazelwood attacking the back of Slade now, and looks like a lot of the drivers are setting up for passes into the last corner. That seems to be a real hotspot this weekend and area of passing choice. But Cam Waters performs his pit stop in the Monster Energy Mustang. So apart from our race leader and Bryce Fullwood, so Shane Van Gisbergen and Bryce Fullwood currently 1st and 2nd on the road. They are the only 2 cars left to make their compulsory pit stop.
I've got some very bad news if you're a Blue Oval Ford fan. Right now, Camaro has run 1 to 9. Van Gisbergen and Fullwood are 1-2 yet to pit. Shane's staying out. 24 laps down, 11 to go. They're going to keep on rolling with him. Fullwood staying out as well. They're in the 1-minute 9s now. So Feeney at 33.5 seconds off the lead will absolutely take the lead back comfortably. So Van Gisbergen, they look like they're going to do what they've always done. Go long and put themselves in a position to have really fresh tyres for the run home. But it does help their race later on today too, because they've used up more tyre in this race, and then they've left a set that haven't done as much work that they can use over.
And they will have an idea roughly of where they're going to pop out in the pits. So would have calculated that pit lane transit time like you detailed before, Noons, and then add that onto their pit stop time. So they are estimating, they will be calculating where they're going to pop out of pit lane and how much time Shane needs to get remaining to pick off those cars in front of him.
And now he's in. So Shane Van Gisbergen, the reigning Supercars champion, is in pit lane at Hidden Valley in Darwin. From the lead of the race, Bryce Forward is in as well. So this will wash out the order with everyone now having done their pit stop. So Feeney will be the leader. Heimgartner will be second. Brown should be third. The question is here, where does Shane Van Gisbergen peel back in? Three-time chap is in. Mechanics, very quick. 2 on each of the rear wheels. Bang, done, off the deck. He's at pit exit. Remember, reigning teams champions, they are at the end of the pit lane. So he's already out of the lane, already accelerating up to speed. Here comes Feeney. He's got him. Heimgartner's going to need to go loud and proud up the inside here. He'll get him as well. But Shane Van Gisbergen, running along, has got himself to third with a sniff at the podium and the win with fresh tyres to come on home.
Yeah, so that speed that he had in that back half of his stint was very strong from Van Gisbergen in the 97 entry, and he is in the game now after his pit stop.
I thought he was going to be about fourth in the way that all fanned out, but now he's on the attack to Heimgartner at the hairpin. This is on. This is absolutely on. Feeney's got 1.4 seconds back to Heimgartner, so the Kiwis are fighting for second and third. Brown and Kostecki, the Erebus cars, 4 and 5. Then Golding. Macaulay Jones is seventh, having a hell of a run for Brad Jones Racing. They're fighting for a podium, and they've got Macca Jones in seventh. Pye, Reynolds, Percat. That is the top 10. The story now, though, is can Van Gisbergen, can he get Heimgartner, and can he get to Feeney? He's already got a run here. Van Gisbergen is in the tow, out of the final turn. The big, long front straight here at Hidden Valley on lap 27 of 35. Heimgartner hanging on for the moment, but for how much longer can he do this?
Van Gisbergen, he's all over the back of Heimgartner. He gets good drive out of turn 1. Does Heimgartner go defensive into turn 5? No, he doesn't. It's Van Gisbergen up the inside.
It's way too early to play that game, isn't it, James, though? He can't do it. And now Van Gisbergen's pounced at the right-hander on the run before the run up to the hairpin. And he'll drive away now. He really should drive away. Kostecki's in front of Brown, 4th and 5th. So
we spoke about that with Will Brown, didn't we? You know, he was going to pay.
He came really early in the pit lane, and now he pays the invoice for pitting way back on lap 9.
Have to go through a bit of pain in the late stages of this race, but Van Gisbergen slices his way up the inside, catching a replay of the move on Heimgartner for position 2. So it's a Red Bull Ampol Racing 1-2 at the moment with a handful of laps to go.
Plenty of fighting in the mid-pack. A couple of the guys, remember we talked about those stars of the sport who started way down the back. Update on all of them. Not much has changed. Mostert's the best of them. He's running 17th in behind Zane Goddard. Look further back, Di Pasquale's 20th. Winterbottom's 21st, Courtney's 22nd, and Waters is 23rd. It's been a dirty race 14 for some of the biggest names in the sport.
Yeah, and at the moment, you can throw a blanket over all of those guys that you just mentioned. So this is a really angry battle pack from about position 16 onwards. And we see cars going left, right and centre, passes being made, different conditions of tyres, everything happening as the teammates, Courtney and Waters, go side by side through turns 3 and 4. Waters prevails and moves up one more spot. We've got action at the hairpin. It's between Percat and David Reynolds. And Reynolds facing the wrong way.
In the grass on the outside of the hairpin, James. Remember, he's got a 5-second penalty to serve. That doesn't matter now.
No.
His race is ruined. He had actually salvaged a result out of what's been a tough weekend for that Grove team. They haven't had pace. They haven't been a real factor. But he was at the tail of the 10. Now he's at the tail of the field.
Yeah, he was a real big mover. We mentioned early on in the race, Waters up the inside of LeBrock at the last corner. And big shark bite on the back of that Camaro of LeBrock. So, there is action aplenty all through the field.
The right rear of that LeBrock Camaro, James, has been absolutely belted on that first lap. It's stoved in. They're going to need to make that car look presentable to take up pole for the race a bit later on. Mostert now down the inside of Zane Goddard. That's for 14th down at turn 1. But we're on lap 29, 7 left to complete, and this is Will Davison.
In the pits.
Will Davison, yesterday's podium finisher, is in not just the pit lane, he's in the garage in the Repco Authorised Service pit lane. And the Shell V-Power Racing team, we'll have to get to the bottom of this one because he was in the tail of the 10, and now he's in the pit lane.
And his teammate at the same time being passed by Cam Waters at turn 6. So Waters on a bit of a charge, albeit from back in the field. A replay now of the incident between Percat and David Reynolds, and Percat has just
he'll be pinged for that.
him there. Yep. So just straight into the back of Reynolds, unfortunately, and an inevitable penalty will be coming Nick Percat's way, unfortunately. So, yeah. But
pretty clear-cut, that one, yep. I'd reckon. What is clear-cut is that Feeney has a 2-second margin to Shane Van Gisbergen. So let's just give you the update here. We've got a three-way fight on the run to turn one. Waters down the inside of both Goddard and Cameron Hill. This is Willing. And Nick Percat will pick up a 15-second post-race time penalty for that contact with David Reynolds at the hairpin. Waters is fighting his way through here, James. 15th now. He's up on the back. Next car in the queue for him is Chaz Mostert, his former Tickford Racing teammate. Plenty of rumbling going on in the middle of the pack, but let's update you here on SEN with where we're at. 6 laps to go. Brock Feeney leads in Darwin. The young gun from Red Bull and Pole Racing in his 50th Supercars Championship race might just be able to add another winner's trophy to the mantelpiece at the team's workshop in Banyo, just outside Brisbane Airport. Van Gisbergen, his teammate, is behind, but he's 2.1 seconds behind. Then it's Andre Heimgartner. So the Camaros are dominant. Kostecki, Brown, Golding, Macaulay-Jones. Bryce Fullwood's just pounced on Scott Pye. He's through to 8. So Pye in the Hino Camaro back to 9th. Percat 10th, but with a post-race penalty to be applied. So that will move Thomas Randall into 10th in the Castrol Mustang. Right now, though, James, it's war in the mid-pack, but it's smooth sailing at the front. Yeah,
and I've been monitoring that gap at the front of the field between Feeney and Van Gisbergen, and it's just really hovering around that 2 seconds for the last few laps. So bearing no misfortune from Brock Feeney, he looks like he's got this one pretty under control, but I can tell you that is far from the case further down the field. It is all going on for the minor placings as we see Mark Winterbottom now execute a pass on the wounded Jack LeBrock. So he moves up to position 19, our race winner from yesterday. So talk about, mixed fortunes. And it's Courtney now who has a look up the inside of De Pasquale at the last corner. So again, we see another passing manoeuvre attempt there at the last corner. And just caught some vision of Will Davidson returning to the track.
He's going back out there, James, to get some points. Bent steering arm on the right front of car 17. So they've been able to get it to a point where it's safe to put it back on the road. He's 24th, and he's just going to grab whatever points he can grab. So at the moment, his teammate Anton De Pasquale is under pressure. James Courtney down the inside. They're bumping fenders on the exit of turn 1. It's a world championship fight for 17th place.
It is full sheep stations, isn't it? And Courtney up the inside now, turn 5. So that move took about 6 or 7 corners for Courtney to finally get the job done. And he moves up to P17. But a big shout out to James Golding, who currently sits in position 6. It's been a solid race. And also Macca Jones, you've got to really hand it to him. That'd be one of his career best finishes if he can hold it on to position 7. Again, another really solid effort from Kostecki and Brown, 4th and 5th. They clearly don't have the car speed they've had over the last couple of rounds, but they're executing well as a team and drivers in the races, aren't they?
And they're not losing that many points to Feeney and Van Gisbergen, who they're fighting with in the championship. And remember that Chaz Mostert was 3rd in the points coming into this weekend. He's running 14th at the moment. Couple of laps to go in Darwin. And Brock Feeney, 1.8 seconds is that margin. And mentioned about Macaulay-Jones. He's on target here to equal his best season result, as now Cam Waters is muscling through that fast right-left run through turn 3 and 4. That was wild. He and Mostert going side by side through there.
And with that manoeuvre, he lost out to Todd Hazelwood in the Cool Drive Mustang, but there is nothing separating these 3 cars at the moment. Mostert, Hazelwood and Waters. Waters really appears to have some strong speed in the back end of this race. Part of that will be the fact that he elected to pit very late in the race. And we know that Waters and Mostert have a bit of a history of coming together in the past. Let's hope that's not the case here this afternoon.
So a couple of laps to go at Hidden Valley. Brock Feeney, that margin's coming down. It's 1.5 seconds Back to Shane van Gisbergen. Andre Heimgartner still sits in third. Waters is going to work on Hazelwood on the run down the front straight. He's down the inside at turn one. So good fight back from Cam Waters. Great job from Tickford to get this car in the race, let alone be fighting and working its way forward. He started on the back row of the grid. He's got through half the field. He's up to 14th now with a lap and a half to go. Brock Feeney in control, on target for a 1-2 for the Red Bull Ampol team. And he's got a nice margin here. Van Gisbergen, a nice margin to Andre Heimgartner. They're about to start the final lap. Feeney at turn 14 onto the long front straight. Beautiful blue skies. The weather in Darwin today is fantastic. Of course, remember, our weather for Kubota Cast. Together, we are shaping and building New Zealand. But for the moment, James, it's an Australian leading the way. A couple of Kiwis in 2 and 3. 1 lap to go.
This has been a great performance from Brock Feeney. Withstood a bit of pressure early on and just after the pit stop from Andre Heimgartner. Otherwise, he's been in total command of this race. And let's not forget the last time that these two finished 1-2, although the order was different. Shane van Gisbergen led his teammate across the line. That was the very first race of the championship, all the way back at Newcastle. Of course, it was well documented and spoken about what happened after that race with the two cars being disqualified. But so far, it has been all 888 race engineering in race number 14 here in Darwin, Hidden Valley.
What a race it's been. Brock Feeney, couple of corners to go. This is Supercars on SEN on your Sunday afternoon with thanks to CJD. Need a truck, CJD Isuzu will get it done for you. And Brock Feeney is getting it done today. He's out of the final turn. The checkered flag is waiting. And the young gun delivers again. We've called him Mr. Sunday. He's doing it again. He wins race 14 of the championship. It's a 1-2 for 888 Race Engineering. Shane van Gisbergen, that late strategy to pit later worked out well. Second, Andre Heimgartner, third. Great day for New Zealand in Supercars racing. Great day for Brad Jones and his team. And Erebus deliver again. Kostecki's fourth. Brown is fifth. But let's talk Brock Feeney. He's got on top of Shane van Gisbergen this year. He's won more races than Shane van Gisbergen this year. He's in front of him in the championship points. Have we got another championship contender that's driving car 88 when we really thought it was the guy in 97 was the primary weapon?
Well, you have to say, both those guys, both Van Gisbergen and Feeney, they're genuine championship contenders. Van Gisbergen, obviously the reigning series champion, 3 times series champion in the past, but Brock Feeney, he has really stepped it up this year. That's his 4th victory of the season so far. Converted that victory just then from pole position, a faultless performance, and he'll have a huge smile underneath that helmet of his. So can he back it up again this afternoon? He'll be starting from a strong position for race number 15. Shane van Gisbergen will be pleased to get back up on the podium, and he definitely had some good speed at the end of that race, and a great team effort performance from BJR to have 3 cars in the top 10.
Yeah, it was a really good run, not just from Heimgartner, but as you mentioned, with Bryce Fullwood, with Macaulay Jones. So Brock Feeney, at the age of 20, and to get the absolute numbers of how it's all flowed, at the age of, as of today, he's 20 years and 243 days. He becomes the youngest ever Supercars winner in Darwin. In the 25th anniversary year of Supercars in the top end, he's now back into the pit lane to victory lane where the crew are ready and able to help him unplug, and will be a very happy, now 5-time Supercars race winner. So his 5th win, James, comes in his 50th race. He's 10%. That percentage is on its way up.
It's not bad.
He's delivered quite nicely here today.
He absolutely has. So, yeah, very good performance. And well done to Heimgartner to hold on for the last spot on the podium. So, yeah, great job there, Brock Feeney. And he is certainly the man in form at the moment.
Yeah, it was an impressive drive. Controlling drive. I mean, that win he had in the last race of last year in Adelaide was a proper win. It wasn't a Stephen Bradbury style win where everyone fell out. He had the genuine pace, and he's building on that this year. Let's recap how they finished in race 14 here on SEN. Of course, today our coverage, thanks to Barbecues Galore too, by the way. We had no Barbecues Galore on the track, which was good news today compared to yesterday. Don't forget, their end of financial year clearance sale is on now. Visit in-store or online today. Feeney, Van Gisbergen, Heimgartner. 1, 2, 3 at the end of 35 laps of racing. Brody Kostecki next from Will Brown in fifth. James Golding. We probably didn't talk enough about James Golding today, but he did another great job. The Newlon Camaro for Peter Shiveris's Premier team. And McCauley Jones seventh. Bryce Fullwood eighth. So 3 BJR cars, as you mentioned, in the top 8. So that's a great result for Brad Jones and his team. Scott Pye ninth. Thomas Randall is the best Ford, 10th.
Yeah,
tough day for the Blue Oval so far.
Sad sight for the Mustang and Blue Oval fans, isn't it?
There was a problem for just about all of them in some way, shape or form. Slade 11th. Cam Waters, great fight back to get to 12th from 25th on the grid. Chaz Mostert set the fastest lap of the race. He finished 13th. Hazelwood, Hill, Courtney from last to 16th. Then Deep Pasquale, Winterbottom from first yesterday, 18th in that one. Nick Percat, with that time penalty applied, slipped back to 19th. Then it was Jack LeBrock, Zane Goddard, David Reynolds, Matthew Payne. In fact, Zane Goddard was the last car on the lead lap. And then troubles for Reynolds, for Payne. Will Davison finished 3 laps behind after steering dramas and spent some time in the Repco authorised service pit lane. Declan Fraser did get back onto the track, classified as a finisher. He had steering problems after that first lap carnage where he was involved in a collision with a couple of other cars. Jack Smith's car was not able to rejoin. He's the only car not to finish this race. So race 14 of the championship's done. We're at half race distance in terms of the championship race because it's a 28 race championship. Of course, we are at the 5th round of 12. So if you look at it from a race perspective, it's halfway, but not quite so much in terms of the overall rounds. Apart from Feeney there, who caught your eye? Who was the man of the match apart from him?
I've probably got to say James Golding, to be honest. That was a really solid performance from him to come home in P6. The Erebus guys, again, solid in 4th and 5th. So the thing will be a little bit to unpack in terms of the strategy there. Obviously, we didn't get to see that yesterday with the way the safety car fell, and it forced everybody's hand to pit after lap 5, whereas at least in that race there, we had some mixed tyre strategies going, and we saw that sort of pay off, particularly for Shane Van Gisbergen, having fresher tyres later in the race, and he was able to pick off Heimgartner for position 2 there. So, all in all, I guess, most of the cars are in one piece and they'll go again this afternoon.
And Jimmy, race 15 comes up a bit later this afternoon here on SEN. Jack LeBrock will start from pole position for the first time in his Supercars career. But the news from Darwin is a 1-2. Brock Feeney and Shane Van Gisbergen for Red Bull Ampol Racing. 888 now have got 493 podium finishes in their 20 years in Supercars. They are bearing ever closer to becoming the first team to get to 500 trips to the podium, and they've got 2 more chances this afternoon.
Mr. Sunday indeed. Thank you, Aaron. James Moffat there with Aaron Noonan, your call team from up there in Darwin for the Triple Crown. What a win. Brock Feeney, well done to him in the 888 Racing. Shane Van Gisbergen was second. Andre Heimgartner third. Brody Kostecki, the championship leader, was in 4th position. So great finish there to race 14. Race 15, as you say, coming up just before 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. 1300 01 1170. That is the open line number. Get us on the text line as well. 0457 736 736. Give us all your thoughts around whether it be the Supercars up there in Darwin, indeed the cricket from last night, the golf, which is just completed round 3 of the US Open, the rugby league, of course, from last night, and of course the State of Origin moving forward as well. Benny Elias, Steve Renoff and Michael Kasprowitz all coming up throughout the course of the afternoon. But we'd love to have you as part of the program. Just before we get to a break, I'll go through those scores as mentioned. They've just finished up there at the LA Country Club. Looked another magnificent day in SoCal, as they say. And Wyndham Clark and Ricky Fowler are in a tie for first. They're at 10 under the card after Clark had a 69 1 under and Fowler a 70. So he's had scores of 62, 68 and today a 70, even for the round, 10 under for the tournament. Rory McIlroy, he is lying in wait in 3rd position at 9 under. Scotty Scheffler, the world's best golfer, he's at 7 under. Harris English at 6 under. Dustin Johnson and Xander Schauffele are there and both carded rounds above par. Johnson +1, Schauffele +3. From an Australian point of view, Cam Smith dragged one back. He is in a tie for 9th at 3 under. He was +1 for the day. And Minwoo Lee is in a tie for 12th. He had a disappointing round of golf after a very good second round. He is 2 under for the tournament. Ryan Fox, the New Zealander who was up there on the leaderboard during the course of that first round, he had 1 under for today after his disappointing 74 yesterday. Just looking for the other Aussies. Well, that'll be it. That is the only 2 who made the cut. So that, you would have to say, is a major tournament that is up for grabs. So that is a very open final day, and that will make for fascinating viewing and listening. Remember, that'll finish in the afternoon's program tomorrow across the SEN network. 1300 01 1170 0457 736 736. Send us in a text, and we'll be back very shortly. I'll tell you what we will do. We'll get to some sort of solution. I think we found one for Ben Hunt. What happens at the Dragons? What happens next? Where do you want to see the little number 7 play next year? Where do you think the little number 7 wants to play next year? You let us know. 1300 01 1170 and the text line 0457 736 736.
Great to have you with us. SEN Supercars Sunday afternoon, getting ready to rumble at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin, of course, with thanks to CJD. Keep your business moving with CJD Isuzu. Aaron Noonan, James Moffat with you for the call of this, the 100-kilometre, 35-lap race 15 of the championship. The cars are about ready to leave the grid and start the formation lap, which is not the hot lap of all laps for this weekend, but in Darwin, plenty of warmth, plenty of temperature. Jack LeBrock, the pole sitter, leaving the grid. The field full of Indigenous liveries this weekend. The cars look fantastic. They are off and rolling on their warm-up lap. Remember that there is a bonus 5 points on the line for the driver that sets the fast lap, the hot lap, with thanks to Bridge Toyota Darwin, your home of GR Performance. It's going to be an interesting run, James, to turn 1. How does Jack LeBrock deal with the pressure of being in a place that he's never been before in this level of the championship?
Well, and it's the longest run to turn 1 that we have in the championship. So there's a big, long drag strip ahead of him, and he'll be fully focused on executing the start as well as he can. These cars are very difficult to get off the line at the best of times, and he's got some fast starters starting around him in Andre Heimgartner and Mark Winterbottom.
Let's have a look at the way they line up. It's Jack LeBrock and Andre Heimgartner on the front row of the grid. Camaros lock out the top 3 rows. It's Winterbottom and Feeney, the winner from earlier today and the winner from yesterday. They're alongside one another on the second row of the grid. Row 3, the Wills. It's a battle of Wills. Will Brown, Will Davison. Will Davison is the first of the Ford Mustang drivers. 7th, Cam Waters, then Anton De Pasquale. So some Mustang help for Will Davison right behind him. Then Shane Van Gisbergen, the reigning and 3-time Supercars champ. Kiwi fans want to know where he is. He starts from P9. P10 is Scott Pye. Championship leader Brody Kostecki has got to do what he did yesterday. Start from 11th. Try to grab some points. Get out of this one. Thomas Randall, Todd Hazelwood, Bryce Fullwood, James Golding 15th. Bit further back than where he was earlier today. Had a great run and finished 6th. Zane Goddard starts 16th. The wild card for this weekend. Macaulay Jones next from Declan Fraser. David Reynolds is miles back again. He's 19th. The 2017 Bathurst 1000 winner. Cameron Hill, the rookie. Matthew Payne, the rookie. They're 20th and 21st. And the field is rounded out by Tim Slade, Jack Smith, Nick Percat and Chaz Mostert, the 2 Walkinshaw and Dread United Fords, 24th and 25th. James Courtney rounds out the field. Last on the grid for the second race in a row for the first time in his championship career. We'll expect to see our Repco authorised service pit lane pretty busy today. There's a compulsory pit stop for tyres, a 2-change minimum, James. We saw Van Gisbergen run deep into the race earlier today. Some others came in early. Will Brown was one of those. That's going to be the big question. But for right now, for right here, it's a big moment. Jack LeBrock on pole has a fill-in race engineer. His regular engineer, Jack Bellotti, not in Darwin this weekend, expecting baby number 2 with his wife. So they've grabbed Matt Saunders, who engineered Declan Fraser to Super 2 title glory last year, to come and fill in for the weekend. Hell of a fill-in. We're lined up. We're on the grid. We're ready to go in Darwin. Race 15 of the championship. It's SEN Supercars. Thanks to CJD. If you need a truck, it's CJD Isuzu. That's how excited I'm getting as we get ready to start. Green flag at the back. Good to run. Ready for the lights to go out. Can LeBrock nail the jump? Heimgartner's moving well from the outside of the front row. Now LeBrock gets going again as they go through second and third and fourth gear. The run to turn one. They all want to get to the inside to cover off the line. But LeBrock, the pole man, notoriously not a strong starter, but he's done the job. He leads them in turn one. In the mid-pack, it's really, really busy. Jostling for positions, cold tyres, trying to find some grip. But LeBrock leaves Heimgartner, then Winterbottom. Feeney's there, Will Davison's next. And then it is nose-to-tail stuff. It is really on in this first lap.
Well done, Jack LeBrock. He got that start absolutely perfect. There was nothing between him and Heimgartner on the run into turn one, but it was LeBrock who had the inside line as we've got troubles here for Anton De Pasquale at the hairpin. He's suffered some damage. Is it the championship leader? It is.
Yep. Problem. Brody Kostecki has right front damage. That wheel is rattling around and he's got damage. And this is the day of days because he's had a beautiful run through the championship so far, but Brody Kostecki has problems in Darwin. The right front has significant damage. He's at the back of the field, limping around to get back to the pit. So the question is, can they fix the car, getting back in the race and get some points?
But it's LeBrock who leads the field after lap run. Heimgartner now already on the attack, having a look up the inside into turn two as Waters and Van Gisbergen go side by side through turn one.
Great fight. They're arguing over 7th place. Hazelwood's in the mix too, trying to get on by. But LeBrock has margin. Heimgartner's going with him. Then Winterbottom. Van Gisbergen covering off, and now
huge damage to Kostecki as he limps down the pit lane.
He's made it back to the Repco authorised service pit lane, but that car won't turn because the right front is damaged. He won't make it in. They're going to have to help him get into the garage. So drama for the championship leader. Big news. That might have been one of our Bendix big moments of the day. Thanks to Bendix. Put your foot down with confidence. Bendix brakes. The championship leader is in the lane. Though, they still have one car running, and Will Brown now makes a move on Will Davison. An opportunistic move at the final turn. The left-hander at turn 14. He grabs position 5. And that was a good move. And we've seen more moves this weekend, James. Is that because the cars have less aero? You can run closer to the car in front and then punch a move up the inside?
What we're seeing there, Noons, is that the cars can definitely run closer to each other through the double left-hander complex heading into the last corner, and that is allowing the car behind to dive it up the inside at the last quarter. That was great heads-up driving, not only by Will Davidson, who saw Will Brown on the attack, but also Will Brown, who saw the opportunity and took it with both hands as Hazelwood has a big lunge up the inside of Van Gisbergen at turn 5. Little bit of contact between the two. Van Gisbergen will have the line now up the inside at the hairpin, and he'll hang Hazelwood out to drive, but Hazelwood in that cool drive Mustang attacking the back of Van Gisbergen.
He's got them stacked up again, like in the previous race. Van Gisbergen sits in position 8. It's great to have you with us wherever you're listening. SEN Supercars on Sunday afternoon. Big crowd in the house at Hidden Valley Raceway, enjoying some great racing. It's nose-to-tail stuff. But out front, Jack LeBrock's the leader. 3 laps down, 32 to go. Half a second margin to Andre Heimgartner. New fastest lap of the race for Brock Feeney. That is our Bridge Toyota hot lap so far for Bridge Toyota City and Palmerston. And now it's all about Feeney trying to grab a move on Winterbottom. He's down the inside. There's a bump. There's a rub. Winterbottom hangs around the outside. Gives it back to him in the door. Side by side. Frosty hangs on.
Super aggressive stuff that by Mark Winterbottom. And very good to see, actually. He means business for this afternoon's race. Feeney was up the inside. Didn't have quite enough overlap to pull the pass off, and Winterbottom fought back on the exit. And it's Van Gisbergen who continues to hold up a big gaggle of cars behind him. He's currently in 8th position. We see this a lot from Van Gisbergen. He takes a while to bring up his tyres to temperature and forces a lot of cars to run closely behind him. But LeBrock still at the head of this race, doing a good job so far.
Doing a great job, has got a good start, has built a margin. So the update, race order, end of lap 4 here in Darwin. LeBrock, Heimgartner, Winterbottom, Feeney, Brown, Davison. Waters is 7th. Van Gisbergen 8th. Hazelwood and Thomas Randall is the top 10. Just outside, Macaulay Jones, Declan Fraser, Bryce Forward, David Reynolds, Anton De Pasquale, sits in 15th. And if you've just joined us, Brodie Kostecki, our championship leader, is just now leaving the Repco authorised service pit lane to rejoin, and he's 3 laps down after contact on lap 1 to the 99 Coke car that has had damage to the right front. They've repaired it. He's back on the track. He runs now in last.
And that's the trouble you get when you qualify in the mid-pack, which Brodie Kostecki did. You're in amongst the chaos and the action on the opening lap.
You were going to say the crazies then, weren't you?
And we know at turn 6 in particular here at Darwin's Hidden Valley, and that we're just getting a replay now. It's just contact between the right front.
Well, it was already, so one of the Shell cars, Di Pasquale, was running wide at the hairpin, but the Kostecki car already had the right front damage. We're getting a couple of replays here to try to get the bottom of who touched who, where, why and how. But on the run up to the hairpin, he was covering the inside from Cam Waters. Di Pasquale tried to go the long way around and got himself on the dirt, but Kostecki just went in deeper there. So Di Pasquale was challenging Will Brown and then ran it wide at the hairpin, and Brodie was down the inside and banging into the side of him, and it damaged the right front to the point where the thing's got a steering drama and it was sort of hobbling its way down the Repco authorised service pit lane.
And that's the first real drama we've seen, apart from Brodie Kostecki at race 1 at the last round of the championship at Symmons Plains. Again, he suffered some steering damage early on in that race, but
not like this.
Definitely put him out of contention for race number 15 as Scott Pye comes down pit lane.
Well, he's just come on down. He's got massive damage to the rear of that car. We have got the pit stop window open, so lap 5 is when the teams and drivers can start to come into the Repco authorised service pit lane to get the compulsory stop done, so that counts. But he's got damage, Scott Pye. The right rear of that car's still got some debris hanging out from underneath it. Anyway, Jack LeBroc's leading 0.8 of a second back to Andre Heimgartner, then Winterbottom, Feeney and Brown. So big chance here for Will Brown to claw back a big chunk of points on his very own teammate in the championship fight. Brodie Kostecki is 26th.
Absolutely, a really good opportunity now ahead of Will Brown. And we saw he had good speed in race number 14 earlier today, and those Coca-Cola Camaros have been quick throughout the season, so it's no surprise to see him in the top 5 again for this race. But 7 laps in so far, and it's Jack LeBrock who's got a handy 0.8 of a second margin back to Andre Heimgartner, who is closely followed by Mark Winterbottom in the DeWalt Camaro.
We had a lot of drama, a lot of chaos, a lot of carnage in yesterday's first race of 3 for the Darwin Triple Crown. It's been a bit more circumspect today, but Jack LeBrock out in front, 7 laps down. He's just gone across the start-finish line on this long 1.1 kilometre straight. He has the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 7.74. That was set 3 laps ago. He has our Bridge Toyota Darwin hot lap so far, with thanks to Bridge Toyota City in Palmerston. He is setting the pace. He doesn't just have clear air, he's got a fast race car too.
He certainly does at this phase of the race, there's no doubt about that, and he'll be enjoying that fresh air that he's got in front of him. He doesn't have to worry about managing his brakes or tyres at the front of the field, so far so good for Jack LeBrock.
LeBrock, Heimgartner, Winterbottom, Feeney, Brown. What do they have in common? They all drive Camaros. They sit in the top 5. Best Ford is Will Davison in 6th, then Cam Waters just behind him in 7th spot. We're up and rolling in our final race of the day. Supercars on SEN, and LeBrock is going about it in a very good way here. He moved to Matt Stone Racing last year. He had a couple of years at Tickford Racing where he did have a win, James. We spoke about this briefly before this race. It was in 2020 when the championship had been paused due to COVID. Part of the race formats to get it going again was that the teams kind of had not enough tyres for the race weekend. So in essence, not everyone was on an even footing in every race there, but it was a case of what had to be done to get the championship going. He won one of those races at Sydney Motorsport Park. He finished on the podium later that year at the Bend in South Australia, which I'd argue was actually a better performance because it was comparative with everyone on the same tyres. But he's got an opportunity today to win a race in the toughest championship in the country, and he's got a chance to do it for a team that has come up through the ranks. This is the team Matt Stone Racing in Queensland. that won the development series, Super 2, with Todd Hazelwood a few years ago. They've been in this championship since then. They've graduated. They've come up through the ranks. And the new era of car this weekend, or this year, I should say, is giving them one heck of an opportunity. Tell you what, there's a big fight going on in the mid-pack. Declan Fraser and David Reynolds, they're fighting for 13th, 14th, 15th. You'd think it was for the race lead. And in the end, Reynolds was put off the road by the young gun.
Yeah, Fraser there just opened up the steering on the exit of the turn 6 hairpin, so just drove Reynolds straight off the track. Wasn't as discreet as you've seen in the past, put it that way, Noonan. So anyway, a bit to play out there as Reynolds dives to pit lane.
Yep, he's into the Repco Authorised Service pit lane, and we're getting a replay of what unfolded to who, what, when, where. This is Mostert, in fact, and he's getting a move on Jack Smith at the hairpin, a bit of bumping and banging on the exit, but he got that done for 20th place. So we're on lap 10 of 35 in Darwin. And I wouldn't mind betting that it's somewhere soon that someone who wants to try the undercut might play that game in the next 3 or 4 laps.
Well, we did see Will Brown sort of play that card in race number 14 earlier today, and it did pay some dividends for him through the mid part of the race, but he paid for that later on in the race with his tyres, especially his rear tyres, going away from him. He still managed to hold on for a top 5 finish, so it's definitely worth a risk if you want to play that strategy and come in a bit earlier.
There is 100 points for the winner of this race. Now, even if Will Brown was to win the race and grab the 100, we won't have a change of championship leader today, because Brodie Kostecki, even though he's running at the tail of the field, is 109 points in front of Will Brown. But he's a big opportunity here, Will Brown, to pull back a lot of that margin. And Brock Feeney, who's 3rd in the championship, is 4th on the track at the moment. This could be a race that really changes things. It could be that this race, in the context of the championship, is a Bendix big moment. Thanks to Bendix, put your foot down with confidence for Bendix brakes, because this is one of those days where it doesn't go right. So if you're Brodie Kostecki, you know in 28 races of a season, you're going to get 1 or 2 or 3 of these. You've got to suck it up when you get it, get on with it, grab what you can get, and get to the next round.
But on the other hand, if you're Will Brown, what do you do now? Do you sit back? Do you conserve? Do you take that top 5 finish? Do you bank those points? Or do you go ultra aggressive as he's in the pit lane?
Sorry, that's
Kostecki.
Yep. So they need to service that car and do the pit stop for the tyre change anyway. So he's just really on a case here of rolling on around and grabbing some points and getting on the plane and going home, because there's not much else to grab when you're 4 laps down. Tim Slade pitting now to the Repco Authorised Service pit lane. That is the number 23 Newland Camaro from Peter Shibberis's team. And in the top end this weekend, there's drag racing of a night time on the drag strip inside the racetrack. So Pete Shibberis, who owns this team, he's a top fuel dragster racer. He's not so good with the corners. He's good with the straight bits, but they've serviced Tim Slade. He's on his way now down the lane. Jack Smith's in pit lane too. So Jack LeBrock is still our leader. 1.2 seconds the margin back to Andre Heimgartner. Yesterday's winner, Mark Winterbottom, sits 3rd. Today's earlier winner, Brock Feeney, is 4th, and Will Brown is currently running P5. But LeBrock has ticked the boxes so far here, James. Good start, held off Heimgartner, and has built a margin. So the next focal point of the race comes on the Matt Stone Racing Truck Assist pit crew.
Absolutely it does, and there'll be plenty of pressure on those guys down in pit lane. But you spoke. Oh, here we go. We've got Mostert up the inside of Goddard at turn 10s and 11, and Goddard off the track. So he saw Mostert right at the last minute, got out in the marbles, and fortunately escapes without any further damage. So just a run through the grass there for Goddard in this Super Cheap Auto wildcard entry for this weekend. But it was Mostert who shoved the nose of his number 25 Walkinshaw Andretti Mustang up the inside, and wow, we don't see often too many cars going off at that part of the track and not making contact with the tyre wall. So nice job there by Zane Goddard to keep it all under control.
And that final sector of the lap here at Hidden Valley, it's where it just keeps going left, but not very much. It's just a little left, little left, little left, little left, and then you finally get that little right left that brings you onto the front straight at Hidden Valley. LeBrock leading 1.4 seconds. He's building this margin.
He's extending the margin, Noon. So right now, 13 laps into this race of 35, he is not going to have a better opportunity in front of himself to pick up his second race win in the Repco Supercars Championship.
With all of that drama in the opening lap with cars bumping and banging, no further action from race control. And I tell you what, the streak's continuing, because we talked about this between us before we came on air. No driver that's been the championship leader coming into each race, so wearing the orange numbers, has won the race. It's a curse so far this year. Although Brody's still leading the championship, but it hasn't worked out. Van Gisbergen is into the back of Cameron Waters on the exit of turn one, and that was on the exit. That was Van Gisbergen with the right front of the Camaro on the inside of the left rear of the Mustang and just driving into it. Just absolutely, that looked like a frustrated move from the reigning champion, who sits in 8th place. Van Gisbergen has not been a factor this weekend at all.
And once again, we've seen Shane Van Gisbergen struggling early on for pace, having cars all over the back of him, but he's able to temper that, and his car comes on later in the stint. So it's whether that's Shane just managing the way he brings up the tyre, but right now he's ranged right up to the back of Waters in the Monster Mustang. So it's a battle of the energy drinks at the moment between Monster and Red Bull. Van Gisbergen tucked right underneath the rear wing of the number 6 Monster Mustang.
LeBroc's margin is 1.2 seconds. We're on lap 15 of 35. And really at the moment, the fight is between Van Gisbergen and Waters. They run in 7th and 8th. The top 17 cars are yet to pit. Anton De Pasquale is in the Repco authorised service pit lane as we speak, in the number 11 Shell V-Power Racing Team Mustang on what's been a pretty tough weekend for Anton. Van Gisbergen now down the inside at turn 5. The right-hander up the inside of Cam Waters gets the job done. That is for P7.
Yeah, it only felt like that was a matter of time with the speed that Van Gisbergen appeared to have on Waters, as a slowish pit stop for Anton De Pasquale, who exits pit lane. Looks like he might have taken three tyres then, Noons. I'm not quite sure.
I had my head down in some numbers, doing some analysis while that was all going on.
So if Anton did take 3 tyres, that's the first car that I can recall that has taken 3 tyres in their pit stop this weekend. So maybe a bit of tyre strategy unfolding down there at Shell V-Power Racing.
They've got one car that is serviced and on its way. Will Davison still sits in position 6 in this race. This is the race that finishes off the weekend for the Darwin Triple Crown. Another car coming on in now. So Thomas Randall is in the pit lane. Matthew Payne in the second of the Penrite Mustangs from Grove Racing is on his way in as well. Warm stuff today in Darwin, but it's the perfect time of year for supercars to be in the top end. This is a massive event on the Northern Territory and sporting calendar, and it's been that way since 1998. In fact, it wasn't, COVID couldn't even stop the championship going to Darwin. In fact, 2 rounds that year in 2020, back-to-back weekends in the top end. It's great to have this as a part of this national championship tour. And at the moment, Jack LeBrock is in the box seat, but there is still 20 laps left to run. Out on track, 36 degrees at the moment, with thanks to Polaris. And now my question is, James Moffat, I was just about to ask the question. I've just about to get the answer. Feeney and Brown are pitting right now. End of lap 16.
5-second time penalty to car 56. For
and Declan Fraser picking up a 5-second penalty. He'll serve that at his pit stop. But has he pitted already? No, he's in that group that hasn't pitted. So they'll have to hold that car once they've serviced it.
So pit stops now for Brown and Feeney. Nice clean pit stop for Will Brown and the Erebus Motorsport crew. And that's what likewise for Feeney. So those guys are in and serviced.
And that's what I was thinking about before. I was pondering that as they came on in, just as they popped up on our timing monitor, rolling on in. So the question is now, what do LeBrock, Heimgartner and Winterbottom do? Because they were the 3 that were in front of these 2 before they decided to come on in. If you're Jack LeBrock, you don't want to blink too early here.
And for Feeney and Brown, who just pitted, they're splitting this race exactly in half. So lap 17 of 35 completed, and they will be going
in now. Leaders are in. All 3 are coming on in, mate. LeBrock, Heimgartner, Winterbottom, all in at the end of this lap.
So pressure on the pit screws now, especially Matt Stone Racing going up against BJR, who are the renowned kings of pit lane. Reasonable stop there for LeBrock, and he's going to get out in front of Heimgartner. Looks like a slowish stop for Winterbottom and the Team 18 crew.
Yeah, that was a delay. Now the question is, where does LeBrock come out in relation to Feeney and Brown? He's in front. Feeney's just coming onto the pit straight. He's up to speed, though. LeBrock's exiting. I tell you what, Feeney will leapfrog Winterbottom for third. Down the inside, he's got him. Before the DeWalt Camaro of Frosty gets back on the road. Frosty parks it up the inside to stop Will Brown from getting him as well, but he might get him anyway. He rattles his bumper and gets him unsettled at turn 1 and drives straight down the inside. Oh. Brown gets through, and he was forceful because he knew that he had to pounce while Winterbottom was on cold rear tyres.
There was nothing in it between those two cars on the exit of turn 1, but that was a very opportunistic move from Will Brown. As you mentioned, he knew that he had to get that job done there and then, and that's what he did. So he moves up to effective P4, currently sitting 15th on the road, but a lot of cars still yet to make their compulsory pit stop. So plenty of action still to unfold, but it was a good, clean stop for the truck assist guys and Jack LeBrock as Will Davidson enters pit lane now.
Team ready on standby. He was the first of the Fords in the field. Rear tyres, no, they're going for more. They're going to change the right front for Will Davison as well. 3 tyres, good stop. That was really quick. That might pay some dividends a bit later on.
So we thought we might have saw the same with Anton Di Pasquale with their tyre strategy, and that's exactly what's unfolded there with Will Davidson.
And we should explain too, the right front is the front that they changed. They did the rears, all the teams have been doing that, but there's a lot of left-handers here, so the right front tyre is the one that's working hard. Van Gisbergen's now the leader. 8 cars are yet to take a compulsory trip down our Repco authorised service pit lane. And we're just picking up a replay here of on the in-lap that Will Davison came into pit. He was passed for the actual lead on the track by Van Gisbergen. We're just picking up a replay there of Heimgartner exiting his pit stop before. Was very close to the left rear tyre changer on Mark Winterbottom's car, but all looked okay there. I don't think there was any contact or any concern. Van Gisbergen is in pit lane now. So they haven't gone too late or long, and they're going to do the 3 tyre change as well. Rears and the right front. He stalled it. He stalled it. Shane Van Gisbergen gets it going again. That cost a second or 2. Winterbottom's gone by. Will Davison will get him. Todd Hazelwood's a chance. He's going to have to cover off here, but he can't. Van Gisbergen cannot get to the inside. David Reynolds is there as well. Macaulay Jones gets through as well. Van Gisbergen straight back down the inside on Jones, though. Will get him straight away. And he used him up. He moved him to the exit of the road there, right on the edge as they fight. So Cam Waters is the new leader of the race. He's staying on the track too. He's going to run a little longer while he's got that clear air.
Race control to all teams. 5-second time penalty to car 9 for a driving infringement.
Big news here. Will Brown is going to pick up a 5-second time penalty for a driving infringement. Interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
Can't actually recall any incident that we see with Will Brown. So unless something happened on the first lap.
Yeah, so just hearing some word that it was between he and Mark Winterbottom back on lap 18, a couple of laps ago down at turn 1.
That would have been on when Frosty re-entered from the pits, but geez, there didn't really seem to be much in it in that pass, Noons, from memory. But Van Gisbergen now, he dives up the inside of Reynolds at turn 1, so that stall in the pit stop, as we mentioned, has really cost him in terms of a bit of track position. So we saw the 97 crew elected to change the 3 tyres in his pit stop. But unfortunately, the stall on his pit exit has definitely cost him a few spots out there on the track, which he's going to have to make up now.
So Cam Waters leads the way in Darwin, yet to take his pit stop. We've got 14 laps to go. This is going to be a really interesting one. Can Jack LeBrock win the race? He's the fastest at the moment of the cars that have taken a compulsory pit stop. It is interesting times. And the other element is that there's some of these cars, most notably Shane Van Gisbergen and Will Davison, who have changed 3 tyres at their pit stop. So we'll take a break on SEN Supercars. It's an intriguing battle at Hidden Valley in Darwin. Cam Waters leads the way. 2 cars yet to stop. Come back and join us very soon. We'll have the run to the checkered flag. Time to come back. 10 laps to go at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin. Race 15 of this year's Repco Supercars Championship. We've had our last break with thanks to Bendix. Put your foot down with confidence. Bendix brakes. The man who has confidence at the moment, he's got his foot down, but it's on the throttle pedal. It's Jack LeBrock leading the way for Matt Stone Racing. The Truck Assist Camaro has a 2.7 second margin, James Moffat. Everyone's now taken their compulsory pit stop. We are on the run home to the checkered flag. 10 laps time, just under 30 kilometres of racing, and Jack LeBrock might get Matt Stone Racing and its very first win in Supercars racing.
Well, there's no doubt about it. He is in the absolute box seat at the moment. Noons, his car looks fantastic. It looks to be looking after the tyres nicely. He's got nice clean air in front of him. And so far, Andre Heimgartner in the BJR Camaro hasn't had enough speed to challenge him, especially since the pit stop cycle has played out. So LeBrock with a healthy margin of 2.7 seconds with just under 8 laps to go. The big story as we went to break was a 5-second penalty being handed out to Will Brown for what we believe was some minor contact with Mark Winterbottom as Frosty rejoined the circuit after his pit stop down at turn 1. Didn't look to be much in it from my point of view, so a pretty soft decision there by the stewards, in my opinion.
Jack LeBrock is leading the way, James, and he set the fastest lap of the race back on lap 4, 1 minute 7.7435. He has the hot lap of race 15 thanks to Bridge Toyota City and Palmerston. At the moment, he's controlling this race and he's building the margin. The big question for me here, let's just update the order for our listeners here on SEN. Jack LeBrock is leading the way from Heimgartner, Feeney, Brown, Winterbottom, Davison, Van Gisbergen. Now, Davison and Van Gisbergen took 3 tyres at their pit stop. So they changed the right front tyre on each of those cars. We're just hearing word, 5-second time penalty now for Matt Payne that will be added to his race time. He was in some contact with Macaulay Jones a couple of laps ago.
I thought it was Timmy Payne out there, not Matt.
Wrong sport. Right surname.
Anyway, the stewards seem to be handing out a few 5-second penalties for this final race of the weekend, so they're getting pretty excited. But anyway, the race goes on. A couple of real big movers in the race so far out of the Mustang camp is David Reynolds, up 9 positions from his starting position, I should say, currently in P10. And Chaz Mostert, again, on a charge through the field, already up to 13th position. He started in 25th, so he is up 12 positions again. So another man on the charge, Chazzy Mostert in that number 25 Optus Mustang.
So Jack LeBrock, he's driving for Matt Stone Racing. And just a bit of background, Matt Stone is the son of Jim Stone, who was partners with his brother Ross in the Stone Brothers team. Marcus Ambrose, Russell Ingall, James Courtney, Jason Bright, who won in Darwin back in 99. And how's this for a bit of Darwin history? Just pondering this. The last time the car 34, which is what Jack LeBrock's driving now, won a race in the championship, it's a familiar face, Michael Caruso in Darwin in 2009. It's been a long time between drinks if you drive car 34. But he leads the way now, 2.8 seconds. Feeney's third, Brown is fourth, but with a 5-second post-race penalty hanging over his head. Winterbottom is next, and then it's Van Gisbergen who is through on Will Davison. And Shane's probably the guy who's going to make some moves here because of that tyre change. He changed 3. He changed the rears and the right front. So he's got a little bit more grip. There's a lot of left-hand corners. The right front does a lot of the work here. So he's a chance here to grab another spot or 2. Well, he'll get one probably from Will Brown if he finishes within 5 seconds of him, because Will has a penalty that James alluded to before. But LeBrock's in control here. He doesn't need to do anything crazy. He's 2.8 seconds in the lead. He's comfortable in the lead. This is all back on him now to bring it on home. Yeah, for LeBrock now with 5 laps to go, it's just about hitting your marks. Don't overdrive the car. Keep it nice and smooth and consistent as he's been doing all race so far. His car, like I said before, looks beautifully balanced. It's not sliding around anywhere. It's clearly looking after its tyres, and he's in total control of this race.
Another consistent performance this afternoon from Andre Heimgartner. He looks on target to pick up another podium as it's Van Gisbergen sliding up the inside of Winterbottom at turn 5. He gets that move done nicely, so he's definitely on a charge, Van Gisbergen, in the number 97. Can he get to Brown in time before this race is over? Although we know that Brown has that 5-second penalty hanging over his head, but Van Gisbergen's car speed
I reckon
in
he
this
could get
race...
him. I reckon he'll get him on the road. He won't have to worry about the result sheet at this pace. It was a nice clinical move from the left-right flip-flop on the run up to turn 5, the right-hander that brings them into the valley, the hairpin section. And that was the standard Hidden Valley move, wasn't it? Get through that flip-flop fast, dive to the inside, get the job done. And Will Davison's just there too. He's on the same tyre call as Van Gisbergen. So now he's going to put the pressure on Mark Winterbottom. The leaders just have completed another lap. They've gone racing down the start-finish straight. They're on lap 31 now. 5 to complete.
Certainly across the 3 races this weekend, Noons, there definitely seems to be a bit of a trend that the Camaros definitely seem to come in their own in the back half of these races. So whether that's a fact that the Chevrolet Camaro can somehow manage and look after its rear tyres, particularly a little bit better than the Ford Mustangs, only the teams and drivers will know that. But it seems evident from the outside looking as Waters pestering the back of Mark Winterbottom out of the hairpin.
And Cam's got by Will Davison too. So he pitted late. He pitted last of all of these cars. So Cam Waters runs 7th and he's all over the back of Winterbottom on the run home. So he's got the freshest set of tyres here. So he's gone through on Will Davison, who we were talking up Will for having the 3 tyre change. But for Cam, it's that pitting even later that's given him a huge grip advantage. And now he is right up behind Winterbottom, pulling out of the toe on the run to turn 1. Yesterday, pole sitter and on fire. Big recovery job from Cam Waters and his crew overnight to get this car back on the track. And he's got a move done on Mark Winterbottom. He's now the top Mustang in position 6. And Winterbottom now has to deal once again with Will Davison, former teammates at Ford Performance Racing. And now they're fighting after sharing the podium yesterday for 7th and 8th. But LeBrock leads the way, 4 to complete in Darwin. And it's winding down. We had action quota through the roof yesterday. First race today, calmer. Last race today, I reckon everyone's just tired.
Well, I was hoping the boys would go a bit more bonkers in this last race, to be honest, but maybe they just got the tap on the shoulders from the team owners. So, fellas, we need to be able to push these cars back in the transporters and start the long trek back to the workshop. So no shenanigans in this last race of the weekend, please.
We want to push them in, not sweep them back in is probably the go. I always like to do our track conditions update thanks to Polaris Off-Road, but no change. It's still warm in Darwin. It's still 36 degrees track. It's 31 ambient.
Sun's still out.
Yeah, sun's still out. Shorts are on. Thongs are on. It's all good. And now it's really settled into a rhythm to bring this on home. A little update. Chaz Mostert's made moves in this race. He's qualified poorly all weekend, but he's raced pretty well and he's worked his way through. But the thing is here, and this is something that has been a common thread this weekend, the Fords have not featured, but they've all had sort of dramas, or they haven't been fast enough in qualifying to get themselves in a spot to even try to hang on. Because clearly the Ford drivers are all saying their car cannot do a race distance. It's too on edge to be able to do the times all the way through. But, I mean, Mostert here is at least recovering and fighting. He started 25th. Yeah. He's now 10th.
Huge recovery, up 15 spots. And really across all 3 races, his car and race trim has been very strong. And he continues his march on through the field. He's got Hazelwood at just a second up the road in position 9. So whether Mostert in the last couple of laps here can rein in the Cool Drive Mustang and pick up another spot, it's been a mighty effort from him up until this point. 15 spots is a huge effort. The next best car through the field is actually his teammate, Nick Percat, who's up 9 spots, and David Reynolds up 8 spots in position 11. But it's Jack LeBrock who currently leads this race by 1.5 seconds. So the last few laps of margin back to Andre Heimgartner has decreased a bit. So is it all a little bit too late for Heimgartner, or is LeBrock just backing it off ever so slightly and conserving those tyres that he has underneath him. But like I said before, he hasn't put a foot wrong in this race. He got a perfect start, led the field into turn 1, and it has been inch perfect for the 34 of the 35 laps so far for Jack LeBrock as he comes onto the front straight to commence the last lap of the race.
2.89 kilometres of racing that remain between LeBrock and Matt Stone Racing's very first win in Supercars racing at a place. And how's this for how it all lines up? In 2011, this is where Stone Brothers Racing, the team that Matt worked for as a young bloke, with his dad Matt and his uncle...
Uncle Ross.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Uncle Ross, Dad Jimmy. This is where Stone Brothers Racing won its last Supercars race before they sold to Erebus at the end of 2012. It was in Darwin in 2011. So it's a nice link here for MSR. LeBrock's at the hairpin. There's a really big crowd here ready to welcome him home. A first-time winner in Darwin. The team is leaving the pit bunker to get out on the fence and get out on the pit wall and welcome him home. Here on SEN Supercars, we're going to chalk up another first-time winner for this season. He's won before in Supercars, Jack LeBrock. He hasn't won like this from pole position. A dominant performance. Another new winner in 2023. Jack LeBrock and Matt Stone Racing pull off the upset of upsets at Hidden Valley in Darwin.
Unbelievable performance. Well done, Jack LeBrock and the whole MSR crew.
Unbelievable. What a result.
Superb drive.
It's been a day of Brock. Brock Feeney won earlier today. Jack LeBrock wins this one. And he's done it with a fill-in engineer.
Incredible stuff.
Matt Saunders has turned up this weekend to fill the role, and they've gone and won a race.
Absolutely incredible stuff. I dare say there might be a few sore heads in the MSR bunker tomorrow morning, and it'll be richly deserved too.
Yep, absolutely. It's been a while between drinks for Jack, and I covered it off earlier. The change this year to the Gen 3 rules has brought this team into the game. LeBrock's been a top 10 runner all year, so I'm not shocked that it's come together on one of the days. He's been qualifying well. He's been racing well. He's been in the top 10 of the championship, and today Jack LeBrock picks up the win. There is a lot to wrap up. There is a lot to cover off. Stay with us on SEN. We'll wrap it all up from Darwin when we come back. Well, what a day in Darwin at Hidden Valley Raceway. The Darwin Triple Crown has been run and won. Jack LeBrock picking up the win in the final race of the weekend. So James Moffat, 3 different winners from 3 different teams in 3 races this weekend. The whole sweep the weekend and win the Triple Crown thing, not a thing again this year.
Well, only if you're a Chevrolet Camaro, that's for sure. So Chevy's taking the wins across all 3 races. But for Jack LeBrock in that final race number 15 of the championship, led it from start to finish, pole position, first race win of the year, first race win for MSR, first pole position for MSR.
First podium as well.
So, just a tremendous result. Drove it absolutely inch perfect all race. So congratulations to those guys. And obviously, rounded out on the podium by Andre Heimgartner and Brock Feeney, who really was the high point scorer all weekend and probably the class act of the weekend.
Just outside the podium, Shane Van Gisbergen has finished 4th. Will Brown picked up a post-race time penalty because of contact with Mark Winterbottom. That's moved him back to 6th. Cam Waters was the best forward. Pitting late brought him on. He finished 5th. The rest of the 10 was Will Brown 6th, Mark Winterbottom 7th, Will Davison 8th. Chaz Mostert, I reckon he's just about the man of the match there because he's worked his way from the back to 9th. Todd Hazelwood 10th. Bryce Fullwood, the hometown Darwin driver, 11th, from David Reynolds, Macaulay Jones and Thomas Randall. If you're just joining us in the wrap-up of Supercars from Darwin, championship leader Brody Kostecki is still the leader, but with a much reduced margin. He's finished 26th and last today, 4 laps behind. Some steering damage in some contact on the first lap dropped him back in the order. But really, today has been a day of Brock. Brock Feeney won the race earlier in the day. Jack LeBrock wins the race this afternoon. But still, it is the Chevy Camaros that dominate the Repco Supercars Championship. No doubt there's going to be plenty written and talked about in the upcoming weeks from Ford fans, from Ford itself, because the Mustangs are still yet to really grab many trophies in 2023.
Well, 14 out of the 15 race wins have gone the Chevrolet Camaro's way. So, it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds in the coming weeks. But certainly the Mustang teams are still on the back foot. It appears that they're still on the back foot, certainly in race conditions. But another fantastic weekend's racing up at Darwin's Hidden Valley. It always produces 3 great races, and that was certainly the case in 2023.
So we've got a championship battle, Jimmy, that has been condensed this weekend. Some ground lost from Brodie Kostecki, some ground gained by his teammate young Will Brown from Toowoomba, some ground gained too from Brock Feeney, who stepped it up. He's the real deal in challenging for the Supercars Championship, not just Shane van Gisbergen. So there's a whole pile of potential, whole pile of possibility. It all starts again in 3 weeks' time from North Queensland when the Supercars visit Townsville. But it's been a big weekend in Darwin with Camaros dominating again.
First and a third for Brock Feeney, so a spectacular weekend for him. As you say, real mismatch there with the Chevys and the Fords. The Camaros in complete control, 14 of the 15 races, and the Mustangs with just the one. Great job, Aaron and James. Thank you. Enjoy your birthday, James. I'm sure you will. So make sure you have a celebration tonight, and that is well deserved. So Aaron Noonan and James Moffat there. Great call of those 2 races.